Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our 2024 West Side Town Hall for the 47th Senate District. I'm your state senator, Brad Hoylman-Sigal. I am very pleased to be joined by my colleagues on the stage. As you know, the 2024 West Side Town Hall is a follow-up to the 2023 West Side Town Hall. And our district, which is the 47th, runs from all the way from Christopher Street and Greenwich Village up to West 103rd, or as we like to say on our team, from the gay bars to Zaybars. Yes. And we've all been looking forward on my team for this event. So I'm so grateful that you decided to spend a beautiful, beautiful Sunday afternoon with us to discuss important issues to the West Side and the entire city and state. Really, it's your commitment to local community organizing and issues that I think inspires my colleagues and me as we pursue our agenda in Albany, City Hall, and elsewhere. Speaking of team, I want to introduce my team, many of whom you know. They have made today possible. Sam Vasquez, the man behind the curtain. Evan Lieberman, who has been our Community Board 7 liaison. Jake Asher, who handles our communications. Gabrielle Bruner, our legislative counsel. Caroline Wexelbaum, our budget director. Esther Caroline, who is our new CB7 liaison and just started today. Esther, where are you? We've got amazing interns who are here, Audrey Ho and Izzy Ballard. And here in spirit, it says in spirit, they haven't gone anywhere, but Jonah Rose, who was invaluable in helping put together this event, our scheduler in Albany, Megan Nolasco, and our social worker, Stephanie Shatino, who have done amazing work. And of course, the team at the American Museum of Natural History, Doheny Sampura, who's the Director of Government Relations, and our main point of contact. Thank you very much. Big round of applause. Sophia Rivera, our Government Relations Associate for the American Museum of Natural History, and Dan Slippen, who's the Executive VP, who's been tremendous in helping us organize this. So thank you to all of them. It's such an honor to be here at one of the most iconic institutions in the city and, in fact, the entire nation. And if you haven't heard yet, town hall attendees have the bonus today of being able to explore the museum's standard exhibitions for free after this event, so please take advantage of that opportunity. I know that my 7-year-old is doing that as we speak. I do want to thank the museum for not just having us today, but for working with us officially, particularly Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal and Councilmember Brewer, for helping us move an early voting site from the very busy William O'Shea Educational Campus, where early voting interrupted classes, to here, the museum, the American Museum of Natural History, which is now our new early voting site, starting October 26th. And I'd also like to thank the organizations that are here tabling outside, including the Upper West Side Coalition of Block Associations. Let's give them a round of applause. The Legal Aid Society, round of applause for all they do. Midtown Community Justice Center, the American Jewish Committee, and our New York State Controller, where you can seek unclaimed funds if you perhaps lost that deposit with Con Edison. The controller can help you get that back, and you can go out there and get it on the spot, as I understand it. And today we're going to hear about leaders and experts from our community talk about issues that are important to us from those very organizations. But we're going to hear from a number of elected officials who are going to give us greetings, and then we're also going to hear from those specific organizations. Ellen Davison, staff attorney for the Legal Aid Society, she's going to explain how good cause eviction protections work. Next, we're going to have a presentation from Danielle Mendes, who's the project director from the Midtown Community Justice Center. He's going to talk about micromobility and how e-bikes can hopefully safely share the streets with pedestrians. And then finally, we're going to hear from Marisa Barak, the assistant director of the American Jewish Committee, for a discussion on how we can address the rise in anti-Semitism that we've seen so painfully impact this community, but all across the state and nation. Then we're going to have a quick presentation and hopefully answer any questions you might have about Proposal 1, also known as the Equal Rights Amendment for the state of New York, which is going to be on your ballot this November. That's going to be led by Sasha Ahuja, who's the campaign director for New Yorkers for Equal Rights. And finally, we're going to open up to your questions and comments where you can ask us anything, anything that's on your mind. Before that, again, I want to thank my team for all of their work. And again, those special interns, Izzy, Audrey, Avi, Jen, and Chris. All those interns have worked over the summer. And they are college students and high school students. They kept our office running, answering phones, helping constituents solve problems, and yes, help us keep up to date with what's cool with the kids these days. So our interns did something pretty amazing, and there you can subscribe to our e-newsletter. You can just click on that QR code. But our interns did something pretty amazing. In addition to all the work they did, they went out across the 47th district and scanned illegal cannabis stores in our district to try to help us locate where they are. This is a photographic representation of what they came up with. Oops. Yes, there they are. Before they went out. The next slide. Those are the interns. And this is what they found. Look at that. Those were 89 storefronts that they surveyed. Now, we didn't ask them to go in and purchase illegal cannabis, of course. But we definitely have isolated about 17 that are flagrantly advertising illegal cannabis. And we've shared that information with the Office of Cannabis Management and the New York City Sheriff's Office, and hopefully they're in the process of being investigated. So let's hear it again for our summer interns for all that work that they have done. Now, before we get further underway, I'm going to turn things over to Sean Decatur, who is the president of the American Museum of Natural History. I had the pleasure of hosting President Decatur in Albany earlier this year and honoring him on the New York State Senate floor as a small gesture to show how much we appreciate the work that he and his team do to educate the public. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I welcome to his own stage Sean Decatur, president of the American Museum of Natural History. I don't think he wants to stand in front of the cannabis shops.
Yeah.
Okay, nice to see you.
Thank you. Yes. No, thank you for that. I was actually wondering, that would be a first for me in terms of posing in front of the illegal cannabis stores. So first, thank you, Senator Hoylman-Sigal, not only for that warm... Thank you, Senator Hoylman-Sigal, not only for that warm introduction and welcome, but for your support of the museum over the years, sort of dating back to your time working with the New York City Partnership, but more recently, your work with the Senate and helping move forward the state's decision to support the restoration of the museum's roofs on 77th Street, which was an amazing to have that financial support for this project, and really important for support of the museum. And I'd also like to thank Assembly members Linda Rosenthal and Tony Simone for your continued support, and District Attorney Bragg, it's just great to have you here with us as well. And if I could just say a little bit about the museum at this point in time. You know, I feel that every day, and it's probably shared in this room, I wake up to new news of generally awful things happening around us, whether it is new evidence of the impact of climate change on all of our lives, whether it's more news about biodiversity loss, more news about threats to our health and well-being. And I'll say that's just the science news. If we turn to other things, then certainly there's news about the increasing economic, social, political polarization. And then after reading the headlines, I have the joy of coming to work here at the museum and watching folks queue up every morning, folks from nearly every continent around the world, school children that are here on field trips, who are coming to a place that's dedicated to inquiry, to discussion, to learning every day, and to not only that, but to inquiry and discussion about many of the critical problems that we are facing, whether it's the challenges of climate, the challenges of bringing science to a broader public audience. And I'd say one of the things that gives me hope is that there exists places for that common ground of people to come together and to engage in a sense of inquiry and discovery, and that we can have that here in our neighborhood here in New York. And I'm incredibly grateful not only for the opportunity to extend that in the hosting events like this, but in also being an early voting site so that we can actually sort of continue to play a role that's essential to the civic fabric of our community. And just very grateful for the support of all of you for the museum and its efforts. And I do encourage you to, after this is over, to go and explore the museum, especially the Gilder Center, which opened a little over a year ago, and check out the exhibits, the insectarium, the other things that you can enjoy here at the museum. So again, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Hoylman-Sigal, for your support, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks.
Thank you, President Decatur. And there's the agenda for today. And we're going to get started right away with a quick survey of some of the work that we've been up to over the past year, my colleagues and I, namely on the budget, as the President Decatur alluded to. We did pass a pretty hefty budget this year, $237 billion for the next fiscal year. There were investments in fighting climate change, funding mass transit, providing resources for universal pre-K and public schools, expanding tax credits for families with children. The budget also, I'm very pleased to say, included a number of initiatives that I helped lead, which we were successful at. One is called the Local Journalism Tax Credit, which first in the nation proposal. California just copied us, by the way, but it's going to provide $90 million in tax credits to help local media outlets, like the West Side Rag, I hope, to hire and retain local journalists. Very proud of that. We've seen the demise of local news. We've seen the consolidation of national news. We've seen the New York Times, some would argue, walk away from New York City. So we need our local journalists more than ever. Second is a bill that I worked on with Assemblywoman Rosenthal, who knows it extremely well, which will finally allow New York City to lower its own speed limits. It's called Sammy's Law, in honor of Sammy Cohen-Eckstein, a young man, 12 years old, who was struck in Brooklyn and killed. And I want to thank Assemblywoman Rosenthal for getting that through the Assembly, and Assembly Member Simone for all of his support as well. Third, we're happy to have included a proposal that we fought for alongside District Attorney Bragg that's going to add 23 new offenses that can be charged as hate crimes. That was also in our state budget. And I also worked with the district attorney on making e-fencing a crime. E-fencing is when you effectively steal items and put them on a platform to resell. New York's law up until now had a loophole where you actually had to physically possess the item to be charged. Now, the platform, the person who facilitates the transfer of the goods to the online platform can be charged as well. They don't have to possess the item any longer. So we hope that does something about the smash and grabs that you've seen across the 5 boroughs. I think you know, through some of the efforts that the district attorney and others have taken, we've given the NYPD the authority to padlock and shut down illegal cannabis shops. Yeah. Again, Assemblywoman Rosenthal did great work in supporting affordable housing efforts. One of the efforts that I helped lead was making certain that if we're going to subsidize affordable housing, we're going to subsidize the developers who are building it, we need to make sure that their work is audited. That's called 421A, and we have now required existing 421A projects to ensure compliance with the affordable housing requirements. There were dozens of scandals around this program over the years. This auditing hopefully will put the brakes on that. $150 million to build affordable homes, and then you're going to hear more about the good cause eviction protections for market rate tenants later in the afternoon. We passed landmark gun safety legislation, one of the bills of mine, along with 83 other bills. The Stop Hiding Hate Act, which is going to require online platforms like X to account to the New York State Attorney General instances of hate on their platforms and what they did about it. Happy about that. The Wild West moped crisis legislation. That's a little bit of a breathless description, but I'll say that we did pass legislation that's going to require the gasoline-powered mopeds to actually be registered at the point of sale, meaning you can't buy a gasoline-powered moped without a license plate, and we hope that helps NYPD with enforcement. An issue close to home for me is called the Dyslexia Diagnosis Act, and why is that important? Well, if you have a child with dyslexia, as my husband and I do, you have to get a neuropsychological exam. Those exams cost anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. Insurance doesn't pay for that. Our bill will mandate health insurance in New York to pay for neuropsychological exams. Waiting for that to be signed by the governor, and then the Safe Landings Act, which is a bill that we came up with at a hearing on family court as chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. That bill's important because orders from judges for young people who are in foster care need to be executed sometimes after the child leaves foster care. Up until now, they had not. So if you're over 18 and a judge says you are entitled to, for example, addiction treatment, up until now, you wouldn't get that treatment if you aged out. With this bill, should the governor sign it, you will. So very happy about that. Our Grieving Families Act, I talked about that last year. That's a bill that's going to make certain that New York's wrongful death statute is in line with the 47 other states who count non-economic damages when you have a loved one who's killed, for example, at a construction site or in a limousine, or might die in a hospital due to someone else's negligence. In New York State, our statute was written in 1847 when James W. Polk was president of the United States. We haven't updated it since then, and if you're in that horrible position of having to file a wrongful death case against a hospital, for example, the only compensation you're entitled to is what your loved one's economic value is to society, meaning how much money they made at their workplace. Nothing else is considered. Love, consortium, guardianship, but it is in 47 other states, so we hope that the governor will finally sign our bill. We modernized HIV testing. My colleagues here, Assemblymember Simone and Assemblymember Rosenthal, worked with me on HIV prior authorization and prohibiting co-payments for PrEP and PEP. That's the life-saving drug that prevents HIV transmission. Some local priorities. We added 28 new family and civil court judges because of the extensive backlog in family court, where children are literally being torn apart from their families due to the delays that some of them face, up to a year or longer. We established a Parkinson's disease registry, working with the Michael J. Fox Foundation, where individuals who have Parkinson's can voluntarily contribute their demographic information to a database, which is going to help researchers hopefully find a cure and allow them access to Parkinson's disease information. That's important. Our Fashion Workers Act has not yet been signed by the governor, but it would provide labor protections to fashion models, just like the fashion models in California have. In New York, they're subject to a loophole, and they don't have those protections. Assemblymember Simone and I passed a bill that's going to officially allow absentee ballot drop boxes throughout the state of New York, so you don't have to wait in line. You can just hopefully just drop your ballot in. And then finally, the Seinfeld bill, which I think it's better that we have a video to, so you can understand what I mean.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me 1 second. Hello?
Hi. Would you be interested in switching over to TMI long distance service?
Oh, gee, I can't talk right now. Why don't you give me your home number and I'll call you later?
Well, I'm sorry. We're not allowed to do that.
Oh, I guess you don't want people calling you at home.
No.
Well, now you know how I feel.
That's our Seinfeld bill. New Jersey passed it last year. We passed it this year. That's going to require telemarketers to identify who they are within 30 seconds of calling you, like they did Jerry. And then with the help of Stop the Chop, some of the members might be here today, Assemblymember Simone and I worked on finally moving that west side helipad off of the park by 2026. And hopefully we'll see some relief from chopper noise and the inconvenience that they pose to users of the Hudson River Park in the future. And then we renamed the Christopher Street subway station the Christopher Street Stonewall Station. Yes. Mr. District Attorney, this is not from the Stonewall Station. This is a replica. But very happy to do that because Stonewall, of course, the birthplace of the modern LGBTQ rights movement. And I want to thank Assemblymember Glick for her work on that. Coming up, some of our efforts include our Older Adult Resource Fair, which is going to happen on Tuesday, the 8th of October at Goddard Riverside. Thank you to my colleagues here who are co-sponsoring it. We have new resource guides available for you, an older adult resource guide. It used to be called a senior resource guide, and then I became a senior, so I'm like, it should be older adult. And our family resource guide, which is available out on the table for you. Now, we have a shredding event on October 10th, something that is extremely popular here on the West Side. I chanced upon this very sad situation where somebody's personal information was strewn all along 6th Avenue. And there was a gentleman there who was going through it. So that's our message. Don't let this happen to you. Come to our shredding event on October 10th at 97th Street in Columbus. Some mega projects that we're all working on. Penn Station redevelopment, trying to get that train station up to world-class standards as it should be. The Port Authority bus terminal is going to be renovated. My colleagues and I are working on that to get a lot of those buses off of our side streets. Gateway is, of course, that rail tunnel that's going to be built under the Hudson. We're going to see some casino license applications in our district. Like it or not, they're going to apply. And proud to announce that we have $108 million for 124 permanently affordable housing at West 20th Street at the Bayview Women's Correctional Facility at West 20th Street. That's a really positive development for affordable housing. I want to thank Governor Hochul for her leadership there. And we're going to look at new affordable housing right across the street on 11th Avenue across from the Intrepid. Legislative priorities, we're fighting climate change, new insurance requirement, our Fashion Sustainability Act. Assemblywoman Rosenthal and I are working on electrifying the Manhattan cruise ship terminal to get rid of carbon emissions. We have new gun safety legislation Assemblywoman Rosenthal and I are working on to stop the transfer of files to make what are called ghost guns, or guns that are printed at home with a 3D printer. There's a story about it just today in the New York Times. We're working on legislation to protect New Yorkers from abuses, particularly in the workplace, from artificial intelligence. And we're going to work to get congestion pricing back online, because that's $1 billion a year our mass transit system needs, and we've already invested over $600 million just in the cameras alone. So let's turn the cameras on. And then a few more items, and you're going to hear about this later. Assemblywoman Rosenthal and I are working on insurance requirements for e-bikes that deliver goods and services. I'm working on a bill that's going to institute zero tolerance for cutting a padlock at an illegal cannabis shop. Make that a crime as it should be. Daylighting for safer streets to make our intersections safer for pedestrians and cyclists alike. We're going to try to get cameras in the courtroom. Did you know that New York State is the only state in the nation where our courts do not allow cameras? But only state. Oh, I'm sorry, Louisiana being the other. But we're not exactly in the same league. My Medical Aid in Dying Act, I hope to get to the floor for a vote that's going to provide terminally ill New Yorkers the opportunity to hasten their death if they have 6 months or fewer to live. 10 states in the District of Columbia have that law. We're working on easing quorum requirements for our community boards. I've been working with Community Board 7 on that issue. We have a proposal that I hope to advance in the budget to end what's called the commercial rent tax, an unfair tax on small businesses south of 96th Street. Basically, our district, they have to pay extra, and that's not fair. The other boroughs don't have that tax on small businesses. And we're taking on sidewalk sheds, hopefully with a bill that is going to allow you to file a nuisance claim against a sidewalk shed that has been standing way too long in your neighborhood. And speaking of sidewalk sheds, we have a special announcement in that regard. We are introducing an initiative from my office called the Sheddies. The Sheddies. The Sheddies is an award that is a facsimile of human excrement, I believe. And it will allow you to nominate the most annoying, disgusting, loathsome sidewalk shed in your neighborhood, and hopefully my office and our colleagues can take action on it. As they say, it's an honor just to be nominated.